Well, guys, welcome to our MHSDUMB course. I've heard many comments that we need some more help with different topics within our actual moduling course. And as your co-director of training, I saw a need and I want to meet it. So today, we're just going to do episode 1. Episode 1 is going to be on resolutions. I've heard resolutions across the board. So I'm going to show you 2 resolutions, what they look like, what the structure of them is, and how you can get through them. I'll probably do position papers, general conference information, and Parley Pro in future episodes. I'm going to probably do 4, just to let you know. And yeah, so we're going to just dive right in here. Okay, so now that we've switched over to our resolution view, I'm going to give you a couple of quick facts about this resolution, and then I'm going to just dive right into it. So this was from 2024. It was a different delegation that wrote this. So it was the Republic of Korea, and the Republic of Korea was on the Security Council, which happens to be the most advanced conference at Altman. So this was made at Altman. I don't actually know why I made this on the poster card there, so sorry about that. So if you can see here, just at first glance looking through this resolution, you can see it's actually not the longest resolution that could possibly be in Security Council, and there's a reason for that. So whenever you're making resolutions, you really want to focus on getting to your point and doing it quickly. So not having 5 pages of just blatant information. I have made that mistake myself, and we will be looking at one of my past resolutions, and I will be showing you my mistakes with my past resolution. So you can see this resolution has 10 clauses across 3 pages. It's actually one of the longer resolutions in Security Council, even though it is, again, not considerably long, considering all the other resolutions that I've seen. So let's start with the beginning. So whenever you're writing a resolution, you're going to start with your committee, your sponsor, and your topic, CST. That's every single time, no matter what committee conference you're going to. That's every single time what you're going to do. Now, it can vary between paper type, but for resolutions, this is all I want you to start off with. So CST. Committee, sponsor, topic, every single time. So you can see his committee is the Security Council, his sponsor is the Republic of Korea, and once we get farther along, which I'll show you later, is a super res, which would have at least 3 sponsors. Actually, it is three sponsors, and those sponsors would go up and talk, and then you would have all of your signatories underneath, which is based on their percentage in your committee, but we'll talk about that later. Okay, so he has his CST right here. And then above, obviously, you've got your committee, your topic, and then the number that you're on the docket, if you do make the docket. So they would make this for you whenever they put it on the docket is what they would do for you. So we're just going to start off with our preambulatory clauses. So you can see our preambulatory clauses right here. These are with things like keeping in mind, noting, emphasizing, deeply disturbed, taking into consideration, emphasizing, etc., etc. So you can see that these are shorter than the majority of our resolution, but they introduce the paper to kind of like, it's kind of like adding support to your resolution. So in this instance, our topic is the Houthi rebel group's involvement in maritime terrorism in Yemen. And so he recalls past United Nations resolutions, which is a really smart thing to do, and it's something that I completely recommend you do. That way they can be introduced for the topic, so he could either quote them later or bring them up while in debate. So he can support his resolution and his side of the argument to make it more appealing to other delegates. Another thing that you can do in these perambulatory clauses is kind of establish your country's position. I know it's kind of weird, like a position paper kind of does that, but if you really want to clarify in your resolution, you can say something like this. So like noting the already combined casualties. So sorry, that's not right. My bad. Deeply disturbed by the negative impacts. That's what I meant. Sorry, guys. So you can say something like that. So overall, it's just a thing to introduce and to support your resolution, and you're going to type as many or as little of these as you want. I would have at least 2 or 3, but a good paper usually has like this 6 to 10 of these. It really just depends on what the topic is and what the conference outlines. Sometimes a topic could be a lot less for your country, and sometimes the topic could be a lot more for your country. So it really just depends on what kind of information can you get to solidify this into your paper. So let's just go back to the definition of a resolution real quick. So a resolution is a working paper that acts as your voice to the rest of the committee on what you want to see implemented, and then enforces those requests, so then you can implement these into a super resolution, which we'll look at later again. So these are active clauses. Preambulatory acting clauses. That's my bad. And these are actually what outline what you want to do and what you are looking to pass in committee. So let's just start here. So this specific delegate started out with a definition. So he says, requests all members of the United Nations to declare Ansar Allah, heretofore referred to as the Houthi organization, as a terrorist-led and funded organization. This is a very strong point to start out with. As soon as you define something, that comes out swinging like, hey, I am down with this. My country is down with this.
I'd like to knock him down with this.
This is what we want to do. So a definition is definitely a very strong way to start. So he's saying, I want to classify this group as a terrorist organization, and that will support the rest of what he does. So requests is his keyword here. His next clause is saying endorsing. So endorses. So that's a very, very key word if you want to include things like peacekeeping operations, or the creation of a committee, or just something along those lines. So it's a lot less harsh of a word, but it still establishes like support for something. So here he's supporting the continuation of trade in the Red Sea, including the trade areas other than the Red Sea, including the Panama Canal and the Suez and all those other things. So this pertains to his actual resolution. He includes the permitting the International Court of Justice to provide a trial. So that's something that you can do in higher committees, is you can permit other things to happen. So like the ICJ bases itself off of SETCO, and so that's a really important thing. But that's a much more advanced topic. You guys won't be doing that. Volman does not have any SETCO or advanced committees really at all, and so you don't really have to worry about that. I will say a really big thing about these resolutions is staying in your committee. So let's just say that I'm in DISEC, which is the Disarmament and Security Committee, concerning like weapons and stuff and weapons development. If I were to establish a clause about the environment or the environmental impacts of something, that would not be within my committee, and that's not what I want to do. So you want to stay within your committee, stay within your topic, and stay within the bounds of your committee. And usually if you go to the topic guide, which is the guide that every chair releases for their specific committee, you can usually find some limits on there, what they want you to stay within and what they don't want you to stay within. Also, a really, really important thing about those things is you can find example resolutions as well as goals for your resolutions. So a lot of times people have really, really like they're confused or they just don't know what to like write about. And there are actually specific goals that the chairs set that they want to see done in committee that you can usually find on a topic guide. So for our Volman topic guides, you'll find them on one of the pages. And I'll probably, you know what, I'll just put a screenshot right here where you can see. So that's a really good thing. Let's continue on. I'm going to skip clause 4 because it's not really pertinent to our situation, and I'm going to move to clause 5. So in clause 5, you can see calls upon the accumulation of resources. So this is a really, really strong word if you're trying to use already established UN sanctioned like organizations or resources or operations. You can call upon those things to be implemented into a situation. Now, again, it depends on what committee you're in. So the Security Council has a lot more power within that region, but that's a really strong word. And again, we're just going clause by clause here. You can skip ahead in the video if you want to get to a different part. I'll label it for you. So let's get down to subclauses. So a subclause, like what you see here, is additional information for a clause. So it's like supportive information, kind of like clarification, because a lot of times what happens in debate is a lot of people waste time, or not necessarily waste time, but just take a lot of time to try and clarify or have clarifying questions about resolutions just to make sure that they stick to their country's position and make sure that they don't, like trip up over anything. So a really, really important thing for you to do is to make sure that you have plenty of information within your clauses. So here he's just got one subclause and then a couple of sub-subclauses defining what the resources should be or should include. So it's not too much, but just by the fact that he has this information here, it can be questioned within debate, and you can or the other delegates can just clarify or strike a clause or do whatever like that. So continuing on down to clause 7, you can see he's got a little bit more information. So a really, really big mistake that I see a lot, including my own, and I'll show you that in a minute, is this right here. And this is not formatting correctly. And believe it or not, it can actually prohibit you from looking professional, or actually that's not a believe it or not, it's a blatant obvious answer. But it's really important that you format correctly, because a chair will look at this and say, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's got to really do it. So always make sure that you're formatting correctly. We'll release formatting guides and everything just to make sure that you're set with that. Other than that, you can just see he ends it up. There's another formatting issue, so he should have 11 right there. You can just see like he's establishing committees, he's recommending things, he's doing all this stuff. So what is a resolution used for? It's a resolution used for your country's, that's not how you spell it, so sorry, view. And then it's just putting this into action. That was a really terrible circle. So that's a basic resolution and what we're looking at. I'm so sorry if I missed a couple things. Please let me know if I didn't. We're now going to look at a super resolution. Alrighty guys, here is our super resolution. And we're going to start right back with the top with our CST, except this time our CST has a little bit of a change. So this time it's CSST. What is this second S? It just appeared out of nowhere. That is your signatories. They say signatures, not actually signatures, it's signatories. They should have been a little bit more official with that, but that's all good. And again, you can still see that we have our committee, our sponsor, or sponsors in this case, in our topic. So to pass a super resolution within committee, you're going to have 3 sponsors at least, and then more if you want to. And then these 3 sponsors, if you guys have been in committee yet, are the ones that go up on the authors panel. So the authors panel has a set amount of time, set amount of speakers time, and they introduce their resolution to everybody else, and they demonstrate and take questions occasionally pertaining to the actual resolution. So here, this is actually a really good example because we already covered the Republic of Korea's resolution for topic B. And this is also the lead sponsor of this document. And again, it doesn't really matter, the order doesn't matter, but for this, it ironically, it does, like, it kind of goes back and forth. But he's kind of like the lead author, and I'll show you why. Or the lead sponsor, sorry. So if you can see, just comparing these two documents, they actually have very similar preambulatory clauses. So they've got this one, the taking into consideration, the emphasizing, the deeply disturbed, emphasizing, noting, keeping in mind, already actually the exact same. So a really nice thing about a pre-written, already great resolution and thoroughly researched is that whenever you have a topic like this, you can just copy and paste in Google Docs and just make sure like it's just easy. And another great thing, which we'll look at later, is you can just add easily to those things because you already got your formatting down, because we'll have our correct formatting complete. So you can see he's got all of his sponsors right here. You're gonna need at least 3 again, and then his signatories. I believe it's a third. I don't actually know the ratio. If you want to look that up, I can probably link it. I'll put it like right here, the ratio. I'll pop it up on the screen. So you need your signatories just to make sure that it's kind of like interest in your super res. So a lot of people misunderstand what a signatory is for. A signatory does not mean that you support a document. It simply means that you want to see it presented. So it could be like a really, really pretentious topic and you strongly disagree with the resolution, but you want to see it presented because, hey, I can ask them questions and kind of get them with like a gotcha moment to support my own resolution. So you really want to always be a signatory, kind of just be respectful, but also just to kind of further yourself along in debate. It's a really, really smart thing to do, and it was kind of frustrating at Ullman. A lot of people did not want to do that, but definitely be a signatory because it's a good, smart move. So again, CSST. So you can see he's very, very similar between these two resolutions, and he actually starts off with his exact same clause as his original resolution. So he has requests all the members of the United Nations, and then defines the terrorist language. Now, a really key change is that he kind of tones down his language in this resolution. So usually what happens is they table all these because they're usually pretty extreme resolutions, the beginning, starting resolutions on the docket, or sometimes they don't, just depends. And then they upload them here, and then they revise them a little bit. So here he wanted to put a little bit more information. So he tones down his language. So this time he says, acknowledging the Houthi rebels, while not specially terrorists, are funded by and supported by the Iranian government. So he tones down his language from they are terrorists to they are a terrorist-like organization supported by the Iranian government, and clarifies for the committee. And this is really, really smart, especially in such a small committee such as Security Council. He tones down his language. Again, you can see a lot of the same thing. So like his endorses, he clarifies even more here. So like clarifies here, he probably had a question about that. And then he dives right into somebody else's clause, or maybe it was the type clause already. So this is what you really want to focus on in debate, is how can I incorporate everybody's resolutions together, and how can I improve upon those? And sometimes you will start from scratch. It's just not always the smartest idea, because in debate, you really do have a very limited amount of time, and it's really not the smartest thing to start from scratch, depending on how you think your committee's taking it. So like if it's a really highly pretentious and everybody's just up in their feelings and nobody wants to pass anything and everything's getting tabled, then maybe, yeah, it's appropriate to maybe start from scratch a little bit. But you really do want to focus on how can I incorporate my resolution and others if you are a sponsor, just to make sure that the writing process goes really smoothly. So we've got our preambulatory clauses, we've got our operating clauses, and again, he just goes on with more information, and you can see here he has a lot more clarifying information than what he did over here. So again, it's just a really, really smart thing whenever you're doing a super resolution, is to have a lot of clarifying information and go around to other blocks, other writing blocks. So writing blocks are like the groups that sit on the ground together and write together, and are like the countries that are in agreement with each other. You really, really want to go over to those blocks because they will tell you what they like and what they don't like, and then you can in turn edit them before you do submit them to the dais. And that's really, really important. So we're now going to be moving on to a not failed, but just not a great resolution compared to past years, and I'll show you why, and then we'll end the video. Alrighty, here we are with my past resolution from the same exact topic as we originally stated and from the exact same year at Altman. So I had my CST, I had my committee, my sponsor, my topic, and then I started with all of these preambulatory clauses. And one of my problems this year at Altman, not this year, but like the year that was past, was coming up with things to say, because I was China, and I don't know if you know this, but China is kind of like on the other side of the world from Yemen, and so it's kind of hard to involve myself. Now, I did have close ties to Iran, so it was a little bit easier whenever I did stuff like that, but it was like a really hard position to defend within committee. So I did use ChatGPT for this, and one thing I'm going to say about ChatGPT is it can be a very, very valuable resource, but it can snag you in the foot real quick. Because they do use AI detectors, every single chair does, and they do look out for common themes. So AI, whenever you use it, they have, it has like a common format that you can tell, and I know some people are like really deep into that, and they like know a lot more about that than I do. Again, I don't know a ton, so I'm just trying to help you out here, and if you find something you don't like, just let me know. But AI is a really smart tool for research, but not always a really smart tool for putting everything together with it. So you don't always want to rely on AI. And I did kind of hear, it's like you can see here, like I put this random clause about the Hammarskjöld, I don't even know what it is, principles of all of this stuff, and that's kind of like almost like a joke of a preambulatory clause. It's something that I can put in, but it doesn't really help anything. It kind of just like shows that I was trying to fill. And again, as we've aforementioned, it's a really, really important thing that you keep your paper concise and to the point, because as soon as you start using fillers like I do, especially in your preambulatory clauses, they can tell, and they don't like them, and they know that you kind of just were trying. You weren't really going for it. This paper is not just to write a paper, it's to actually enact within committee, so you really want to be careful. Anyway, so moving down, you can see my formatting here was off, as well as over here, my formatting was off. Different fonts, that's a really big thing. Spacing, like over here, that's a really big thing. And I had way too much information for clause 3. So you can see I clarified everything here, and that is not great, because this just shows that I was just trying to fill, and you don't want to fill. You want to have actually decent information. And sometimes the most awarded delegates in the entire conference have a paper that's 2 pages long. And this is 2 pages long, but it's kind of like, it's extended a little bit. Sometimes like it's like a page and a half. So it just depends. But you really want to emphasize that every single word in your paper counts, and every single word in your paper has a meaning, because this does not have a meaning. This is just filler words, and it's just to make my paper look longer. Like, this could be, all of this stuff, whenever you take out all the filler words, could be condensed into a paper that's about that long. So you want to be careful, because you don't want to have a paper that's that long. So this is a bad resolution. Now, it did make the docket just because we had a very limited number of delegates. It had some information within it, and you can read it later, and honestly, it's not too bad. It's just a bunch of filler words, and I just want to show you what not to do. So we're now going to wrap up with some key points. Okay, guys, so we're going to wrap up here, wrap up our resolutions discussion, just reviewing in case you missed anything. I know I talked really quickly. Feel free to go back in the video and look at any of the sections that we covered. So, starting out, research. A really valuable tool. Make sure that you are researching effectively. Again, AI can be helpful with finding resources, but I want you to make sure that you're going to actual sites and not just using Google AI or ChatGPT just to quickly get some information and then write it down really quickly. So that's a really big thing. Remember your CST. This establishes your paper, even though it seems stupid. establishing your paper with committee, sponsor, and topic, or committee, country, topic, depending on what you want to say, is a really, really, really big thing. So CST or CCT, whatever you want to call it, really big thing. Preambulatory clauses introduce your paper, and they provide clarifying information for all the clauses in your paper. They start or they end with the ing, so like calling, expressing, denouncing, recognizing.
Boring.
You see the ing? That's really important because that's saying that you're actively calling information or actively denouncing information. So that's a really big thing, is preambulatory clauses. So they introduce your paper, and they provide supporting information for your clauses. Clauses themselves are the bulk of the information for your paper, and they're showing what you want to do, and they are enacting what you want to do in committee. So you use words like calls for, advocates, denounces. You see the S. So that's not like actively doing something, but that's presently doing something. So you're presently calling for, you're presently advocating. So calls for, advocates, denounces. Clauses, really big thing. If you need more help, email me. Last two ginormous things that I see all the time, and these are what I would say separate you from the good to the best, is formatting. So always making sure that you're going back and correcting. Another big thing about AI, I just realized this. Whenever you use AI, we can tell. One, because of the wordage, but two, because of the formatting. The actual font that you're writing a paper in, and again, I'll release an actual resolution so you can see what the font, it's Times New Roman if you're wondering, and it's 12 point, and it's double spaced, all that stuff. It's increasingly important that you at least change some of that formatting. If you do use AI, which again, I highly suggest you don't because it'll disqualify you for awards, make sure you correct the formatting. Like, don't be that lazy to where you just don't do it. Like, please do it. That was one of our biggest problems with Almond, is we did have to correct over 20 papers that had AI formatting in them. So please, 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 please make sure that you are correcting your formatting every single time, whether it's with AI or not. And then lastly, like I said, it does not have to be a concise paper. And the thing about resolutions is, yes, you do want them to be at least a page long, but don't make them 7 pages long unless you really want to do that. Your words have meaning, and make sure they're using words with meaning, because the chairs are looking out for that, and they really, really, really want you to be purposeful with your language throughout your resolution. So yeah, that's the main points that I have for you. Alrighty, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email me. I'm always on the Canvas page, updating everything for you guys, as well as our website. You're going to find our website link on our Canvas page as well, so you can look at that. Please feel free to subscribe to this channel, and so that you can receive updates from us, because I will be releasing new videos in the future for everybody. And also, if you do want to see a video from us, please, please, please fill out our form, so we can know what you want, because again, I'm here for you to help you learn this. So again, thank you so much for watching the video. I'll see you guys around, and always check Canvas for updates, because I will be releasing announcements at least a couple times a day. Most of those should go to your email, so if they do, great. If they don't, just check Canvas. They'll be there. So I'll see you guys. Have a great weekend.